Hello, everybody. Hello. Are you guys out there? Anyone in the pep rally? Okay. I just wanted to say that our last episode with Marcus Borders about personalized learning and technology integration was so fruitful. So if you missed it, please check it out. But for today, grab your paintbrushes and your tie-dye shirt. Pull up one of those comfy bleachers we got out there, because this is going to be a fun and thoughtful episode. Our guest today comes to us from the West Coast, West Side. She calls herself a free spirit and a psychedelic abstract artist who uses painting as an outlet to manage stress and heal PTSD. This beautiful human being is going to share with us how to use creativity to express feelings and tell stories. Please welcome to the Teacher's Pep Rally, Kibbi Linga from Kibbi Spills Art.
Yay!
Hi,
Yay!
thanks so much for having me, and thank you, Erin, for the warm welcome. And hi,
Absolutely.
everybody.
We're so happy to have you. We got East Coast meets West Coast, so this is going to be fun.
Let's unite.
I'm all about it. Let's do it. Let's do it. Letitia, do you have a question? I can see your wheels spinning.
Well, I don't have a question, but I do want to just reiterate to our listeners to grab a hold, because I think this is going to be an awesome show. I had a chance to chat with Kibbi a few days ago, and it just hanging up with her made me feel better. And it's going to be, it's a heavy topic, right? Trauma and healing is a heavy topic, but I think by the end of the show, our listeners will certainly be inspired to incorporate the beauty of art. And so I can't wait to hear what Kibbi has to say.
Thank you, Leticia. I just want to add myself that, yes, this is about PTSD and my pain, but it's also about happiness and sharing that. And I'll end there.
All right.
Okay. So I've seen some of the things on social media, and there's this power that is behind your story. Can you tell us a little bit how art has nurtured and supported some of your healing in life?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually started it as I do have PTSD, and I was having a hard time getting my feelings and my truth validated in the recovery that I was getting. And so it was suggested to me to use expression. And then when I found painting, I thought to myself, if I can put my ugly feelings, my ugly truth on this canvas and make it as beautiful as I freaking can to me, I can turn my pain into beauty. And I did that one time, and it was such a horrible, painful thing. And I exposed it on social media, and I got validated. And so I was like, holy cow, my feelings are getting validated through this art. And that was the beginning of my journey, and using art as one of my biggest tools to healing and becoming a better me.
So do you have a formal background in art or in develop? Like when I hear painting, and I've seen painting, it exists in various ways, but do you have any training, or is this something that you just kind of practiced over time on your own?
I actually picked up this skill about a year and a half ago. I had no training. I use purely my intuition and my heart, and I ask so much for authenticity so that I can put it on there. And that is my school, my experiences in my life, and then connection to like something bigger than myself and authenticity in myself. That's my experience. That's my school for my art.
You have a gift. I mean, if you've not done any training or any formal approach to this, you definitely have a gift.
Thank you.
Coupled with the way you're expressing yourself, obviously. That's fantastic. Wow.
I'm really hearing a lot of vulnerability too. The chance to be somewhat vulnerable, to put whatever it is onto canvas, or whatever someone wants to use to express whatever feelings they have. And I think right now, like we've been talking a lot about the pandemic and COVID, and for our educators, for our students, for our parents, this is a super stressful time. And so I think we all feel really vulnerable. I'll raise my hand and say I do. So I like that we're having this conversation and talking about ways that maybe we can express, ourselves, but be open to that vulnerability in order to really let go of some of the pain is what I'm hearing.
Right. Well, would you mind if I be vulnerable with you and share a list I have of the steps that I take to do this process that I speak of?
Awesome.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Well, first thing I do is I notice that I have pain. And so I find expression. And it's not all the times painting. It's my main medium. Sometimes it can be dancing on the street, or it can be singing in my car or editing a photo, but I find it. So I find expression. And then I come to believe. I believe that I can be honest. I ask for honesty and authenticity, and I believe in a higher power or the universe or a faith. And then I believe in myself. And then I express it and I let it out, and I don't give a crap. I just let it go and let it roll. And then I share it with others, whether it be a person and I just tell them the experience, whether I give it to someone, whether I sell it to someone, or I expose it on social media. When I share, that's myself sharing my vulnerability. And when I expose myself authentically, I heal. And then finally is I just keep doing it, and I become better and better and find more elements that I can add to this healing process. And I so hear you on COVID and quarantine and being inspired to create and helping others be inspired as well, because it's a struggle of mine as well.
Guys, I that's such a great, almost like a formula, but not a formula. And even though it's a vulnerable process, I just hear so much power in that. Just you're vulnerable, but yet you're powerful. I love that, you were going through one way of trying to find your healing, and at some point realized, this is really not working for me. And so you took your power to find an avenue. And so that's what I'd love to kind of highlight from what we've been saying so far, is that in our healing, it doesn't have to be one size fits all. It doesn't have to be all about just going the conventional way of a therapist and medication and all. I mean, that can be a part of it, but I really want our listeners to hear the power in vulnerability and really advocating for your own well-being. One of the great takeaways from our conversation that we had a few days ago, guys, she said, why don't we just admit that we're hurting, that we're sick, and just like get on with it, like find a way to heal. But all of these masks and this pretending is really hurting us. And Kibbi, I hope I don't put you on the spot, but I want her to patent this or copyright it. She came up with a phrase, spiritual well-being or spiritual self-care is the new sexy. I just thought that was brilliant. I would wear the shirt, the hoodie, shirt, the hats, however we get this out. But I just thought that was just so liberating.
I think Letitia and I are going to collaborate on that quote. But yeah, spiritual health, like self-growth is the new sexy to me. I think it's sexy when I see other people, especially men, because it's very hard for men in today's society, open up, become vulnerable, have their feelings, express them, share them, and grow. That's freaking radical. That is what I want. When I see people look within and authentically like find a way that works for them so they can become a better them, I want that.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
No, there's no doubt about
on
it.
that one.
Like, I think it's a party. I'm very enthused about it.
I agree. And I think the students recognize that. Like a lot of times we talk about when you're really being genuine in front of the classroom, like the kids know if you're putting on an act. And sometimes you're right. You got to just admit, look, I'm human. It's messy. I have good days. I have bad days. We have to temper sometimes, our bad days, especially with the kids at what age they are. But at the same time, sometimes it's okay for them to see that you have a bad day or you're having a hard time with something. And then showing them and modeling like you do with your art, ways that you let that out or you de-stress. And maybe the next day or a couple of days later, a couple months later, you're doing better so that they can see that it's okay sometimes to have bad days and sometimes we're not so great. And it's okay to ask for help. I'm kind of like thinking of this whole bag Letitia would tell me. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to say, check in with each other, right? I love it.
Right.
Love
right.
it.
No, and
Pete,
even
I'm
in
thinking
thinking
about
about
your
our students, I'm sorry, honey, even in thinking about our students, I just remember, and I don't want to categorize or make a blunt statement, like an umbrella statement, but I noticed a lot with our students from Mexico or South or in Central America, you put a pad, like lineless paper and a few pencils or supplies, and the things that these babies would create, even in fifth grade, was phenomenal. Like the artistic expression was just amazing and breathtaking. I mean, we often would have them do like the school t-shirt or, any type of artistic, whenever we needed art represented by students or student artists. Could you imagine how powerful it would be if we continue to tap into that self-expression and taught them how to use that in their own healing, in their own stress? So I want our teachers to hear out there that you don't have to be an artist yourself, but even providing a space for the kiddos to express themselves artistically, whether it's drawing or music or writing, I think is just such a powerful tool that we can use, especially during this time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And to piggyback on that, I agree. We don't all have awesome days, or also known as awesome feelings, and teachers don't have the best days all the time. And I think a huge part of art and expression is embracing those negative feelings and hard days and hardships. Because for me, that's when I receive the expression, the triumph, the beautiful art. And so one thing, when I think of children and art, and I also agree with you so much that they are very intuitive. They are at a very young age. They seem to be very close to their true self. And I forget what I was going to say.
It's okay.
Yeah, that true self, that's a really, really great observation. That true self, as you get older, it feels like we wrap layer after layer after layer on top of us, trying to present what we think is our true self. And all we do is keep on burying it. And as you said, as a male, in the world that we live in, it's more accepted to do that than the other. And that's where you try to break from those norms. And oddly enough, like when I think about where I take my students into their career paths, that's a huge detriment. And yet the industry doesn't look at it that way. So I'm in the tech space, but creativity is such an important furnace for any other work that you do, even if it is such a logic framed or rigid looking framed career. That creativity has to be stoked, and the only way you could stoke it is by, like you just said, is kind of finding your true self, and that could be a long journey for some people, and they may never get there. It's interesting to see where you are, how you kind of continue to do it, and you're running wild with it. So it's interesting.
But that's the thing too, is like I have multiple pieces of art, and each one helps me become closer to my true self. So it's just one long journey. That's why I'm so passionate about these little inner beings starting expression at such a young age, so that they have an outlet, a tool. Because I didn't get that as a child. I wasn't allowed it. But like what you said, it's an antidote to the whole don't talk, don't trust, don't feel thing we have going on in the society that puts the mask on in the first place. So it's very inspiring to see children express themselves.
Yeah.
I think the key kiddos, they have the secret sauce. They don't give a darn what anybody thinks about them.
Yeah. They don't believe in doubt. Yeah.
Like they don't care. We're the ones that ruin them with all these judgments and parameters. And, I'm hearing a lot from even parents that are educators themselves that are teaching their children at home. And kids don't even know, they're so structured in their lives that if you give them 10 or 15 minutes to just be, they don't even know what to do with that, because they're so used to us telling them, okay, from 12 to 12:30, you're doing this, and then you're going to do this, and then there's soccer, then there's virtual this, and oh, you want to learn coding and like their schedules are so packed.
Just be bored. Yeah, we don't do that.
Right. Or, be bored and do nothing. Or, hey, here's a craft box. Take the next 20 minutes to just create something.
Right.
No rules, no, nothing. However you're led to create, just do it. We don't give an opportunity to do that. And so then,
Well, it kind of goes back to
trying to go
coloring
down.
pages, right? Like the first coloring book that we're given. What's the rule? Stay in the
Stay in the
lines.
lines.
Stay in the lines. And then we keep on going.
Kibbi, this makes me think of, I saw some of the things that you were posting with your paintings, and it seemed like there was kind of a theme or a topic. Like I saw laughter was one, which I loved. I'm kind of curious about your process. And do you have something that when you sit down that you decide you're going to try to express, or do you just is it organic and you just see where it goes and then you can identify it? I'm curious to hear about that.
I absolutely clear cut choose the title and the meaning of the painting before I started. And in the beginning, I only painted flashbacks and relationships, problems with relationships. But as I've progressed, now I paint things that I want. So laughter, what you saw, I didn't have much laughter in my life at that time, and I wanted more. So I painted it. And following the painting, I got more laughter in different ways. So I use it now, in other words, to manifest what I want. It's another. So I paint my flashbacks, not so much anymore. I do paint about relationships, and now I manifest what I want. And I still paint my pain, because pain does not go away from me. My life gets bigger, it gets better, but the pain doesn't go away. I just have better tools and lovelier people like you guys to help me.
I just love your outlook on pain. I mean, none of us want it, right? Who wants to be in pain or having to manage it in one way or the other? But I just love that you have, it sounds like to me that you have learned, okay, this is part of my journey, and it's not going to take over. I'm just going to learn how to get better tools, wrap myself around more laughter, more love, more people, positivity, drop the F-bomb every once in a while. Free. What else is there? Life can't get better.
Right. Because when we don't care, we get to be us and we get to feel free, right?
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's making me think of one of the classrooms I had for a couple years. I had moved to this school and I was so excited to be at the school. And when they showed me the room I was going to be in, a lot of times we talk about how a school can kind of look and feel like a prison or a true institution, right? Because it's those cinder blocks and
Institutionalized, yeah.
horrible, like beige painting. It's just so blah. And I walk in this room and it was 4 walls of cinder blocks. And I had a window, but the window was so high up. It was like the escape hatch for, I don't know what, I needed like a drop ladder. And there was no sunshine. There was no light. I just didn't feel happiness in there. And so I'm now thinking about when I had that room, I had so many people come in there and say, oh my gosh, this room is so bright and so lovely. You would have never have thought that with the fluorescent lighting and how I just described it. But what I decided to do was, like you kind of mentioned, Kibbi, I used colors. I want sunshine. I want it to feel like sunshine in here. And so I used colors and I put up student work, and I made it so that when you walked in, that the colors and the artwork from the students, it made you feel like you were out in the sun, right? So we can change our environment too, if we just kind of think about what we want to put out in the universe or put out in our world. So it was really beautiful.
Yeah, we can. True.
Pete, I keep thinking about you because Pete's a music teacher in elementary school.
Yep. I'm totally clicking on all this.
I could see you are. I see
right
some grins.
I grew up in an art studio. My mom, artist and an art teacher. That was her whole job, her whole life. And my favorite time of the year was when summer was wrapping up, as oddly as it is, before school starts, when she would have to go into her art studio with the year's worth of supplies being delivered. and unpacking all those supplies. And I just would love the clay and the paint, the cardboard boxes. We need more boxes. I love the boxes, but I would just play hours upon hours. And they were some of my greatest memories growing up. And I think I've taken that with me. I have a small theater company, and I'm also an elementary school music teacher. And I've tried to take that with me into the classroom. Sometimes people are uncomfortable with it, but I don't think I have a very structured classroom. My lesson plans are awfully, they're messy, but they make sense to me. And the kids reach the finish line and they're better for it at the end. Maybe there's not a real finish line, but there's a next step at least, a constant growth. And I love the feeling of building this community in the classroom. I tell them, when you guys walk into this room, it's like you're going through a gate, I was going to say Disneyland or something, but it's like you're going through a gate. I want this to be one of the happiest places in the school. This is a safe place for you guys. I don't just say it because I think a lot of teachers say it, but I think over time they feel it. They really feel it. And over time, I'm able to have opportunities where I'm vulnerable with them. This technology sucks, or I have a migraine today, or whatever. And we have a good rapport with each other. We help each other out. And I want to build a sense, help them grow a sense of empathy. I think that's something huge right now, a sense of empathy to help somebody who's feeling low. And I think when you do that, you're getting in touch with your inner self, and you're going to become a more artistic person in the process. Our big show, we were going to do Aladdin this spring. We closed 9 days before our show was going to go up. But that day that we were closed because of COVID, I posted a video to them and I said, I promise we're going to continue. And we continued doing practices for a show that we weren't going to have all the way straight through to the end of the school year. And we did things, we did nothing to do with music, nothing to do with the show, but we still had an anchor. We still saw each other. We did like Lego challenges and Iron Chef and Shark Tank and The Masked Singer and a murder mystery where they killed me. I'm still a little uncomfortable with that. But, I just wanted to keep giving them that creative outlet. And as restricting as it was, looking at kids in a box in this room and and so stressed out, we can't do the show, the world's falling apart. It was very liberating for me just to connect with those young people and just, let's see what happens. Let's let it ride. I would throw a challenge out there, food, like a food challenge, Iron Chef, Lego challenge, Masked Singer, all these things we did, makeup and invention. And to see them the next day bring it to our little Zoom meeting, and to see them still flourish when other things were quite literally just shut down, it was remarkable. So thank you for being there and helping all these people. I love your message. Very, very cool.
Thank you. Thanks for your message. Is everybody in this room a teacher?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
We're all educators. Yeah.
I am so touched because my teachers were not this radical. My teachers, and that's something I think is so important, is like doing it with these children and being with them and showing them an example of it being fun, and exactly what you just said, Pete. And I just thank you all for being what I consider amazing teachers.
Well, no, and your message, so your message is going to be impactful. I think it's just another voice that's being filtered into our community, regardless of your level, whether you're in kindergarten or at my level, at the college level. And I think it's important for people to continue to seek and learn about opportunities like what you're doing. Because I think certain things automatically, that's what I was going with before about the painting and the skills and so on, because there's certain things that we have access to as outlets, but we sometimes shut them off because, I'm not prepared to do that. I don't know how to do that. Who cares?
That's
just
okay.
beginning to start doing it, man, and just give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
You might be surprised, and things could be a late bloomer. Who knows?
Right.
Late inspiration. We'll take it. That segues really good, Fred, because one of the things I think I mentioned to Kibbi during our conversation was I love art. I mean, I love all forms of art. My grandmother was a musician. She sang, she played an instrument. I mean, my brother sings, my mom sings, everybody has some gift in that way. And I was always jealous of that because I cannot carry a tune. I cannot draw, but I love to write. And so I've taken my love of art. So I have like tons of art books, and I will look at a painting or look through an art book. And when a painting just strikes me, I'll stop, take it in, and just journal about how it makes me feel. What do I think the artist is trying to express in this painting? And so I kind of journal, and I love, of course, doing it at the High Museum, but we can't do that right now. Kibbi, if you have maybe some suggestions for folks like me that we may not even have, don't think we have that skill, or ways that kids and adults can nurture that creativity.
Sure. Yeah. Well, as teachers, I think that just being encouraging, supporting, listening to the children, making it fun, showing them it's an imperfect process, everything that you guys seem to be doing is such an inspiration. And in regards to like tapping into my own inspiration, and especially during COVID, or for anyone for that matter, just things that well, let's go to inspiring the children, actually.
Okay, that sounds great.
Yeah, so I would say something that works for me, and I haven't been able to deal with a lot of children yet, but is asking them what they're passionate about, and then letting them talk and listening warmly, and not making a judgment, but just listening. And then two is teach them that there's a potential process that might work. And I say that because it works for me, and that is to have my feelings, whether they're good or bad, and then to express them using art. But the main thing here is being step one, is having my feelings, embracing my feelings. And then three is just making it fun, like you guys seem to do, and then joining them and showing them that it's fun, and also that it's an imperfect process, and just supporting them and encouraging them. Excuse me. And
I think that imperfect part, I love that you mentioned that word 2 times. You hear that, listeners? Imperfect. Perfectionism will kill you. I mean, literally, it will steal your joy, this need to be perfect. To Erin's point about her class, I remember I'm big into the Harlem Renaissance period of art and music. And I can remember many years teaching 5th grade and trying to get through the, boring standards so that I can teach my unit on the Harlem Renaissance. And I would actually bring in a picture created by Romare Bearden, and just letting kids look at it, observe it, and then try to replicate it using their lens. I mean, it was just amazing. So even COVID time, I want to encourage our teachers out there, and even parents, just giving a kid a picture, and now you can research everything, and just giving them the freedom to either write about it, maybe replicate it using their own perspective. These are all great tools to not only, foster the creativity, but also to release some of this stress and anxiety.
Yeah, I love that. And just thinking about some other mediums, because all of you are getting my wheels spinning, and thinking about all the different forms of art. I love that you brought up writing as well. I was thinking about, I used to bring in my record player to the classroom for a couple of days when we started poetry. And so we would listen to a lot of jazz and, songs that had poetic, lyrics to it, so that we could listen to the song, because they could get the tone from that. And then I would have them analyze the song like a poem. And then that way, when they went to do because a lot of times people think poetry is scary, right? Oh, it's so artsy, and, you're
Not
supposed to sit in it.
Yeah.
But if you start out with songs, a lot of people are familiar with music, right, Pete? And
Yeah,
so
that is awesome.
there's a little bit of comfort in that. So I used to do that. So I'm thinking about that. And then the other thing is, I'm with you too. I love art and painting, and I'm into photography. So for the high school kids, what I do is, if we're getting ready to read a piece, we need to understand what was happening in that time period and that history. Again, Kibbi, I'm thinking, because there's pain in our history, there's joy, there's celebration, right? For us to reflect on, and why maybe Shakespeare wrote the way he did, or about the topics he did, or, Jane Austen. I mean, list them all. And so what I would do is I'd pull paintings from their time period before we started reading their stories so that they could kind of get a grasp of what life was like back then based on what the artists were expressing. So this kind of goes back to what you're saying, Kibbi, is that artists really kind of express their truths, their stories, but also sometimes what their country or the world was going through at that time.
Right, right. I can say that a lot of my pieces during quarantine were affected by quarantine and COVID. I have 2 pieces that are like actually about it.
Yeah. And I think that's healthy. That's healthy that you're doing that.
Can I just ask you a question? I have a technical background, so I'm like all about the process. And I'm not asking you to give away any trade secrets or whatever you don't feel like giving away. But so like when an artist begins something like a painting, especially a painting, because I feel like when you begin the creation process, you may be tapping into an actual energy, and that energy has almost like a little bit of a shelf life, right? For me, writing has to really take place very early in the morning. I can't write in the afternoon.
Same.
Okay, so when you begin a painting like the work you do you have to start and stop, and do you return to it, or is it a one sitting type event, or how does that work for you?
Everyone's different. None of them are a one sitting event, but I will say that some of them only take 2 days, some of them take 6 to 9 months if I put it away. It depends on how long the feeling takes, because essentially it's my feeling. And
yeah, it could so it could linger, or it can kind of ebb and
right.
flows.
And that's another main thing too that I might recommend to the little ones is to put meaning, and they know this probably because they're so young and intuitive, but to put meaning behind their expression. So for example, and everybody has their own way, but for me and my medium of painting, I use colors to code my truth and shapes. So that's, I can like put physical matter of meaning into my work, or it can be imaginary.
So you're saying you put that out there first. So if you were to
like I code my expression. In other words, making my own rules.
Like a square would be equated to this feeling or emotion. Was that what?
Right.
Gotcha. Okay.
Making my own rules. So it's true to me. And if it's true to me and I'm authentic and I'm expressing it and exposing it, I'm healing. That's how I implement meaning behind my work to really help me heal.
I dig that. That's cool.
And I think
amazing.
Oh, and one more thing about sharing tips. I'd love to share every tip I have and beyond, because I just want everyone to join the journey of this beautiful process or any beautiful process that may be to them that works for them. So I'm all about sharing tips.
And I guess the real beauty of art, and I know very little about art, but so when I would look at your painting, that may be representing a certain emotion, a certain feeling. But I could take that same thing, but I could translate that to an emotion of mine and tie that shape to something I'm codifying it as. So it might be total opposite ends of the spectrum, which is that in itself is fascinating to me.
Mm-hmm.
Code art. You just figured out a way to code art.
That's what I do. I just software programming.
Fred, I think
art touches us all.
Fred, I think your experience as a nude model, that's totally in line with art, the art world. They don't want you, but I admire you to keep trying.
Thank you.
Why did I envision the keyboard hiding major parts?
A man could dream.
Yeti microphone.
Yeti microphone.
Just a Yeti microphone. As you can see, we like to tease Fred.
It's all good.
But I do find it fascinating that you were able to fit coding into art. That was really, but again, that's what's amazing. Like you have students that some are so right brain, some are so left brain. So
exactly
being able to hear you guys have that conversation of Fred, who is very scientific, very code oriented, technology oriented, and tapping into Kibbi's art and free space. I think that that's just wonderful. It's letting all our educators know, don't be afraid to introduce these kinds of ideas or these kinds of free form lessons, because the kids will accept it and they'll do it if you open the space to allow them to feel vulnerable and to express themselves. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I know we've been talking a lot about this throughout our episodes in one way, shape, or form. And that is, you're teaching a lesson, we're online, we're virtual, and you notice that your kids are not responding or that there's an emotional meltdown happening. This is a great tool to put okay, let's take a time out and let's just have a 20-minute art jam, and take out your paper, your pen, and we're just I'm going to play some little jazz, or here's a picture to motivate you, to take emotional art expression breaks, if you will, can be a great tool to just have, at the ready, just to give us all like this ability to just catch our breath and regroup. And can you imagine the teacher doing the same thing, like Kibbi mentioned, like participating in this, and then we share our art together virtually, to just, and then maybe get us back on track. But I just think this idea of bringing art into every aspect of our lives, I just think it's a beautiful, healthy thing that probably a great thing that COVID is exposing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I just want to imagine that for a second. So a group full of Zoom students in COVID and emotional meltdowns going on 4 different places on the screen. And then Letitia says, let's stop for 20 minutes and express ourselves through art. However you're feeling, let's put it on the paper and I'll do it with you. I love that. I love that.
Excellent.
That would be a good space for me. I was always the doodle kid, because that was just, I was listening, but I always needed to feel like I was expressing whatever I was feeling or thinking at the time. So for me, that would have been very helpful. And I probably, even as an adult, need to take time to do that.
Yeah. Right.
Art therapy. I mean,
Art
we all
therapy.
have
Look
like
in the last couple months how those adult coloring books have blown up.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I ordered the Mandalorian coloring book.
Mandalas are blowing up right now.
Oh, right.
Oh, mandalas.
But there's even more beauty. It doesn't stop there. There's more forms of expression. There's singing, there's dancing, there's photography, there's comedy, and that's the bliss, I think.
It's funny. Like one of the simple things we do we have a calendar in my house. It sits on the refrigerator, and every year my job is to go out and make sure we go to Staples, but it's a calendar big enough and blank enough. It has the dates in there set, but beyond that, it's a blank slate. And that's my one of my morning routines is I sketch different ways to cross out the days. So January has different kinds of snowflakes appearing all over the place, or because we're in Pennsylvania, of course. Mm-hmm. So we kind of put it out. But it's funny, like as we're talking about all this, I'm thinking about that. I spend 5 minutes doing that in the morning, and it moves me along into my day. It's weird. And I usually do it when nobody's up. I'm alone in the kitchen. I grab my colored pencils out of the cabinet and I stand there in the kitchen. I pop off my glasses and I try to figure out what's going to be the creative element for that morning. And then that's it. And I hang it up on the refrigerator and I walk away. And that's my stamp on the day. I never thought about it as being therapeutic. I just thought about it as I got to keep track of the days. So.
Thank you for allowing us a peek into your kitchen.
Yeah.
I'm gonna post this calendar tomorrow.
I think you should. That's brilliant.
That is awesome.
Well, Kibbi, we really appreciate your time. And as we're kind of getting down to the end of the conversation, we usually do like a little bit of a takeaway because we never know what's going to come out of the conversation with our great guests. So do you mind if the 4 of us kind of give something that we kind of grabbed onto from this conversation? And then we'll open it up if you want to give us some last piece of advice or words of wisdom. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's go.
Okay. So I've already got mine, but I always like to kind of wait. Fred, actually, I didn't let you go first last time. It's you, buddy. Abley.
Oh, I know, because they always steal my good ideas, Kibbi. I always get left. I think I'm just going to start off with where I was before, very early on, when I asked you about the background to get yourself going, and I think when you gave that answer of you don't have a formal background, but you're letting your own gift kind of come alive. I think that's what my big takeaway here today is, the fact that there are no rules. Just do it, just go forward and give it a try, whether it's clay or drawing or crayons or painting. Try it out, and then see where it takes you from there, but don't have any fear of it. And as I was reviewing back on your post on Instagram again, no doubts, so don't believe in the doubt. I
Right.
love that.
Thank you.
Good one.
Thanks, Fred.
Letitia?
Oh, it's my turn. I think for me, the big takeaway is definitely making room for your creative expression, whatever that might be. Just be really intentional about making room about the creativity and just intentionality about authenticity. I think that was just big. It just leads to freedom.
Thank you. Right. Totally agree.
Pete?
Yeah, so you guys know my spiel. I tell everybody I think a creative life is a happier life, a healthier life, and ultimately a more successful life. I say it over and over and over to all my kids and everybody I know. But I really, really believe it. And Cassie, I want to thank you for coming on, because it gave me opportunity to learn a little bit more about my dear friend Letitia, who thinks there is not an artistic cell in her body. And I know there is, because she said, I sit and look at this painting and then I internalize it and it does something inside of me, and then it comes out differently as a journal entry. That is art in the most raw form. You are, my dear, very artistic. That's amazing. So, what? You're on mute, girl. Oh, there you go. What were you saying?
Don't make me cry.
I'm not gonna make you cry, but you are artistic. I think everybody's artistic, and I think everybody's creative. You just gotta, like we were talking about at the beginning, get in there and see what's going on inside to let it out.
Nicely said. I for some reason I'm really holding on to that vulnerability part, and I think it's probably, I've said this a couple times. I'm not a control person, but at the same time, during the pandemic, it really has made me realize how out of control we really are in this life, and part of that's probably the beauty of being human, is trying to accept that and navigate through it. So I'm going to hold on to the vulnerability part. And I wrote down, take time to be vulnerable and use creativity to nurture healing. So I think it's okay to feel vulnerable, and it's okay to use this time right now, especially to really try to nurture some healing, because we're all going to need it no matter what we've been through. There's no doubt that this has caused some stress and strain and anxiety. So you Kibbi could not have come at a better time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you all for having me too.
Absolutely. So is there any little last piece of advice that you'd like to give us and our listeners?
Well, I'll just say what came up for me here today, because I didn't spend time thinking about it. And that was that as we talked about imperfection twice, I was actually thinking of black and white thinking. And I just want to share my thoughts, because I think it's kind of cool. Black and white thinking is perfectionism to me. But when I think about it, there's an infinite amount of shades of gray. And so when I apply that to my expression, and I am not a perfectionist, and I allow myself to be imperfect, I have that many times to be imperfect. And so I really, really stand behind that, and in my art and in my expression, because otherwise I can't finish a piece.
Wow.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah,
so for our listeners, it's so great. So for our listeners out in Teachers Pep Rally, if they want to try to find you, where can they find you?
KibbiSpellsArt.com. Nothing much is on there now, but I will be, and very exciting, although scared, and I have a lot of feelings about it, selling my art in a few months. But mostly you can find me on Instagram or Twitter or TikTok, all under the name Kibbi Linga or Kibbi Spills Art.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And Pete, for our listeners out there, if they want to know more about us, where can they find us?
We love getting feedback from and connecting with our fellow educators. We also like hearing about Fred's past as a nude art model. We love that as well. So in fact, if you like what you hear, please leave us a review. We would love that. This will really help us get the Teacher Pep Rally out so we could connect and help support more educators out there. So leave us a review and make sure you're subscribed. We will want to build this up, build up the Pep Rally.
Yes, sir.
That sounds great. And Kibbi, thank you so much for your time. Maybe we can all get together again and do a little art. Maybe we can all take some time to
That would be great.
do a little art project.
That would be fun. And good luck to the teachers, your teachers and your students and what's to come. I'm excited for you all.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
very much.
much.
Thanks for being here today.
Nice
Thanks.
to meet you.